Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to Love in Chapters. Before we begin today's story, I want to let you know that you are wonderful, more powerful, more beautiful, and more capable than you realize. Life can be tough sometimes, but don't forget to be happy, to smile, to create time for yourself, to stop amidst all the chaos and just breathe, and don't forget to spread love. Also, let me know in the comments section what part of the world you're tuning in from. It brings me joy to see our stories reach various hearts across the globe. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that button now, and like and share this video with a loved one. Thank you. Now, let's dive in. The sleek black Porsche pulled into the underground parking garage of one of the city's most exclusive high-rise buildings. Derek Walker stepped out, his Italian leather shoes clicking against the polished concrete floor. At 34, he cut an impressive figure, tall, broad-shouldered, with sharp features that had graced more than a few women's phone screens as their wallpaper. His tailored charcoal suit fit him perfectly. Speaking of wealth without shouting it, he pressed the elevator button and checked his Rolex. 7:30 p.m. Right on schedule. The elevator doors opened directly into his penthouse apartment, a sprawling space of floor-to-ceiling windows, modern minimalist furniture, and artwork that cost more than most people's annual salaries. The city skyline glittered before him like a sea of diamonds. Derek loosened his tie and poured himself 2 fingers of whiskey from a crystal decanter. He stood at the window, looking out at the city he'd conquered. 7 years ago, he would have killed for a view like this. Now, it was just another Tuesday evening. His phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa, or was it Veronica? He scrolled up to check. Vanessa, last night was amazing. Dinner tomorrow? Derek typed back quickly. Sorry, swamped with work. I'll call you. He wouldn't call her. He never did. 2 weeks was his limit. Any longer, and they started getting ideas. Ideas about futures, about commitments, about things Derek Walker had sworn off a long time ago. He deleted the message thread and opened his contacts. There was always someone new, someone who didn't expect anything beyond expensive dinners, good conversation, and better nights. Someone who wouldn't break his heart because he'd never give it to them in the first place. His apartment was immaculate, maintained by a housekeeper who came 3 times a week. His garage housed 5 cars, each one a masterpiece of engineering and luxury. His walk-in closet was the size of his first apartment, filled with designer suits and approximately 80 pairs of limited edition sneakers. His life was perfectly curated, perfectly controlled, perfectly empty. But Derek had learned to live with empty. Empty was safe. 3 days later, Derek found himself on a private helicopter, flying toward his parents' estate upstate. It was his mother's 60th birthday, and missing it wasn't an option. Not if he wanted to maintain any semblance of peace. The Walker estate sprawled across 50 acres of pristine countryside. His father, Gerald Walker, had built a decently successful career in commercial real estate, though nothing compared to the empire Derek had built in investment banking. His mother, Nancy Walker, a retired teacher, had devoted her life to charity work and, more recently, to the singular mission of getting her only son married. Derek! Nancy rushed out of the house as the helicopter landed, her arms outstretched. Despite being 60, she looked a decade younger, her silver hair styled elegantly, her smile warm and genuine. Derek hugged her tightly. "Happy birthday, Mom. You didn't have to come all this way," she said, though her eyes sparkled with joy. "Wouldn't miss it for the world." Gerald Walker emerged from the house, his handshake firm as ever. "Son, good flight?" "Smooth as always." After settling in, Derek surprised his parents with his gift, a hot air balloon ride at sunset. Nancy had mentioned wanting to try it years ago, and Derek had remembered. As they floated above the countryside, the world spread out beneath them in shades of gold and amber. Nancy clutched Derek's hand. "This is magical. Thank you, sweetheart." "There's more," Derek said with a grin. Back at the house, he presented her with a limited edition Hermes bag she'd admired in a magazine and the keys to a brand new Mercedes. Nancy's eyes filled with tears as she hugged him. "Derek, this is too much." "Nothing's too much for you, Mom." But as they sat for dinner that evening, Nancy set down her fork and looked at her son with those eyes that had always seen through him. "These gifts are beautiful, Derek, truly. But you want to know what would make me happier than anything?" Derek sighed. He knew where this was going. "Mom, grandchildren, Derek, a daughter-in-law, a family. That's what I want. That's what your father and I want." She reached across the table and took his hand. "You're our only child, our only hope of having grandchildren. And you're spending your life alone in that big, empty apartment, changing girlfriends like you change suits." "I'm not alone. I have friends. I have a life." "You have a lifestyle," Gerald interjected, his voice gentle but firm. "There's a difference, son." "I'm happy," Derek said, but the words felt hollow even to him. Nancy's expression softened. "Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, you look like a man running from something. And I think I know what, or rather, who." "We're not talking about Valerie," Derek said sharply. "We never talk about Valerie. That's the problem." Nancy squeezed his hand. "What she did to you was horrible, unforgivable. But, sweetheart, that was 7 years ago. You can't let one woman's betrayal rob you of a lifetime of happiness." "I am happy. You're safe," Nancy corrected. "There's a difference." Derek pulled his hand away. "Can we please just enjoy your birthday without this conversation?" Nancy and Gerald exchanged a look. Then Nancy nodded. "Of course. But Derek, think about it. Really think about it. Because one day, you're going to wake up, and all that money, all those cars, all those women whose names you can't remember, none of it's going to matter. And you'll be alone, truly, alone." The words haunted Derek on his flight back home 2 days later. He stared out the helicopter window at the clouds below, his mother's voice echoing in his mind. "You're our only child, our only hope." He pushed the thoughts away. He had work to focus on, a merger to finalize, a life to live on his own terms. But that night, lying in his king-size bed in his empty apartment, staring at the ceiling, Derek couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, his mother was right. 7 years ago, Derek Walker, then 27, was a different man. His apartment was modest but comfortable, his car reliable if not luxurious. He worked long hours at the investment firm, climbing the corporate ladder one rung at a time. He had dreams of making it big, of proving himself, but more than anything, he had Valerie. Valerie Morgan was beautiful in that effortless way that made other women envious and men stumble over their words. She'd been Derek's girlfriend since high school, his first love, his only love. They'd weathered the storms of college, of early career struggles, of growing up together. She'd moved into his apartment 2 years prior, and their life together felt comfortable, natural, right. That evening started like any other. Derek came home from work to find Valerie in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner. He kissed her cheek, asked about her day. "Just tired," she said, smiling at him. "Work's been crazy." She worked as an executive assistant at a tech company. Good pay, good benefits, good boss. Or so Derek thought. They were halfway through dinner when Valerie suddenly went pale. Her fork clattered to her plate. "Val, you okay?" I feel." Her eyes rolled back and she slumped forward. "Valerie." Derek caught her before she hit the floor. His heart hammered against his ribs as he checked her pulse, weak but steady. "Baby, Wake up! Come on, wake up! He called emergency, his hands shaking so badly he could barely hold the phone. The ambulance arrived within minutes. The EMTs loaded Valerie onto a stretcher, while Derek hovered, helpless and terrified. At the hospital, he paced the waiting room, praying to a God he wasn't sure he believed in. Please, please let her be okay. I'll do anything. Just let her be okay. Finally, a doctor emerged, and Derek rushed to meet him. Is she? She's fine, the doctor said with a reassuring smile. Just been overworking herself. Not eating enough, not resting enough. Nothing serious. Derek exhaled, his legs nearly buckling with relief. Can I see her? Of course. But first, congratulations. Derek blinked. What? Your wife is pregnant. About 6 weeks along, the world stopped, tilted, rearranged itself into something entirely new. Pregnant? Derek whispered. Didn't you know? We're not. She's not my wife. Not yet. But a smile spread across Derek's face, so wide it hurt. We're having a baby? You're having a baby. Derek practically ran to Valerie's room. She was sitting up in bed, looking pale but alert. When she saw him, tears filled her eyes. Derek, we're having a baby. He pulled her into his arms, laughing and crying at the same time. Val, we're going to be parents. She hugged him back, but her embrace felt stiff, strange. He pulled away to look at her face. Hey, it's okay. I know this is a surprise, but it's a good surprise, right? We've talked about kids. Maybe not this soon, but I'm scared, she whispered. Don't be. I'm here. I'm going to take care of you. Take care of our baby. I promise. He kissed her forehead. This is the best news I've ever gotten. If only he'd known. The next few months were bliss. Derek threw himself into preparing for fatherhood. He read parenting books, attended doctor's appointments, painted what would become the nursery a soft yellow because they wanted to be surprised about the gender. He worked harder than ever, determined to provide for his growing family. He started saving for an engagement ring. He wanted to propose before the baby came, to make Valerie his wife, to build the family he'd always dreamed of. But Valerie seemed distant, distracted. He chalked it up to pregnancy hormones, to stress. He didn't notice the secretive phone calls, didn't question the late nights she claimed to be working. He didn't know that she was torn between two men, him and her boss, Henry Terrence. He didn't know that she'd been having an affair. He didn't know that the baby wasn't his. By the time Valerie was 5 months pregnant, Derek had finally saved enough for the ring. It was a stunning diamond, 3 carats, set in white gold. It had taken him months to save for, sacrificing lunches out, new clothes, anything extra. But it was worth it. Valerie was worth it. He planned to propose after a romantic dinner at their favorite restaurant. He had the ring in his pocket, a reservation made, flowers ordered, but he'd forgotten his wallet at home. He returned to the apartment to grab it and heard voices from inside. Valerie's voice. And a man's voice. Derek's stomach dropped. He told himself it was nothing. Maybe her brother had stopped by. Maybe it was the landlord. He opened the door. And there, in the middle of his living room, was Valerie in the arms of another man. They were kissing, her pregnant belly between them, her hands in his hair. The world shattered. Valerie? His voice came out strangled, broken. They sprang apart. Valerie's face went white. The man, older, well-dressed, wedding ring on his finger, looked at Derek with something like pity. Derek, Valerie breathed. I can explain. Who the heck is this? Derek's voice rose, rage and heartbreak warring for dominance. I'm Henry Terrence, the man said calmly. Valerie's boss. Get out. Derek took a step forward, his fists clenched. Get out of my house before I... Valerie stepped between them, her hands raised. "Derek, please, don't. He stared at her, at this woman he'd loved for a decade, who was carrying what he thought was his child. "I come home to find you kissing another man, and you're telling me don't? Just let me explain," Valerie pleaded. Henry Terrence straightened his tie. "I'll give you two some privacy." He headed for the door, pausing to look back at Valerie. "Call me when you're ready." After he left, Derek turned to Valerie. "How long, Derek? How long have you been sleeping with him?" Tears streamed down her face. "A few months. It happened. He was going through a divorce, and I was there. And a few months." The timeline clicked into place. "The baby. When did you get pregnant?" Valerie's silence was answer enough. "No." Derek shook his head. "No, that's my baby. We're having a baby together." "Derek, tell me that's my baby, Valerie. Tell me." "I can't." Her voice broke. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But the baby, it's Henry's." The ring box in Derek's pocket suddenly weighed 1,000 pounds. He pulled it out, looked at it, then hurled it across the room. "I was going to propose to you tonight," he said, his voice eerily calm. "I was going to ask you to marry me, to be my wife, the mother of my children." He laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "I guess the joke's on me. I never meant to hurt you." "But you did. You did hurt me. You let me believe that baby was mine. You let me fall in love with the idea of being a father. You let me plan our future while you were screwing your married boss. He's not married anymore. He got divorced. For me, we're going to be together, move to another state, start fresh. Get out." "What?" "Get out of my apartment. Get your things and get out." "Derek, please." "Get out now!" Derek's tone had risen. Valerie flinched. She gathered some clothes, her purse, her phone. At the door, she paused. "I really am sorry. You're a good man, Derek. You deserve better than this, better than me." Then, she was gone. Derek stood alone in the apartment that suddenly felt foreign. He looked at the nursery door, at the yellow walls he'd painted with such hope. Then he sank to the floor and cried. For 3 months, Derek was a shell. He went to work, came home, stared at walls. His friends, Justin Miller and Travis Hart, practically moved in with him, making sure he ate, making sure he showed up to work, making sure he didn't do anything stupid. "She's not worth it, man," Justin said one night, forcing a pizza slice into Derek's hands. "I know," Derek said, "but knowing didn't make it hurt less." Travis, always the pragmatist, took a different approach. "Use this, channel it, get angry, get focused, get successful. Be so successful that one day she'll see you and regret everything." And slowly, that's what Derek did. He threw himself into his work with a ferocity that impressed even his demanding bosses. He networked, he hustled, he made risky moves that paid off spectacularly. Within a year, he'd been promoted. Within 2 years, he'd doubled his salary. Within 5 years, he was one of the youngest senior partners at the firm. The money came, the success came, and with it, a new philosophy. Never let anyone close enough to hurt you again. He dated, constantly, but never seriously. 2 weeks, maybe 3, then on to the next. He built walls so high that no one could scale them. He became exactly what his mother feared, a man who had everything and nothing at all. Kelly James stood in front of the full-length mirror in her office, adjusting her blazer. At 30 years old, she just made partner at Morgan & Associates, one of the most prestigious law firms in the city. The nameplate on her door still gave her a thrill. Kelly James, partner. She'd worked her entire life for this moment. Her phone buzzed with a text from Courtney. "Congratulations again, partner James. Drinks tonight? Kelly smiled and typed back, "You know it. 7 p.m. at Russo's?" Courtney Green had been Kelly's best friend since high school. Where Kelly was all sharp edges and focused ambition, Courtney was soft curves and romantic optimism. Courtney believed in love, in soulmates, in happily ever afters. Kelly believed in hard work, in independence, in being able to rely on yourself because everyone else would eventually let you down. That evening, as they sat in a corner booth at Russo's, Courtney raised her wine glass. To Kelly James, the youngest partner in the firm's history. Kelly clinked her glass against Courtney's. "I'll drink to that." "So, now that you've conquered the legal world, what's next? A boyfriend? Maybe a husband?" Kelly nearly choked on her wine. "Absolutely not. Come on, Kel. You can't work forever. Don't you want someone to share your success with? I share it with you. With my mom. That's enough." Courtney sighed dramatically. "You're impossible. What happened to the girl who used to read romance novels under the covers with a flashlight? She grew up and realized fairy tales aren't real." Kelly's childhood had taught her that lesson early. She was only 4 when her father walked out, leaving her mother, Martha James, to raise Kelly alone. Martha never went to college, never had the opportunities Kelly would later create for herself. She worked as a waitress, sometimes pulling double shifts, coming home with swollen feet and an exhausted smile she wore just for Kelly. Kelly remembered nights when dinner was cereal, because that's all they could afford. Remembered her mother crying quietly in the bathroom, thinking Kelly couldn't hear. Remembered the stack of bills on the kitchen counter that never seemed to shrink. But Martha made sure Kelly had everything she needed for school. Made sure Kelly knew she was loved. Made sure Kelly understood that education was the way out. "You're going to be somebody," Martha would say, helping Kelly with her homework at the kitchen table. "You're going to have opportunities I never had, and you're never going to need anyone else to survive." Kelly took those words to heart. She threw herself into her studies, graduated top of her class, earned a full scholarship to college, then to law school. She built a life where she'd never have to depend on anyone, where no one could abandon her and leave her struggling. Courtney knew all this, which is why she pushed gently. "Your mom didn't want you to be alone forever, Kel. She wanted you to be strong enough to choose someone worthy, not to shut everyone out." "I'm not shutting everyone out. I date." "You have arrangements. That's not the same thing." Kelly shrugged. She did have arrangements. No strings-attached relationships with men who understood the rules. No expectations. No commitments. No heartbreak. When they started wanting more, she ended it cleanly and moved on. "Remember Adrian?" Courtney asked, a knowing look in her eyes. Kelly groaned. "I knew you'd bring him up." Adrian Sherrill. The name still made Kelly cringe 15 years later. It was junior year of high school. Adrian was the football captain. Handsome, popular, charming. He'd been struggling with calculus, and the teacher assigned Kelly to tutor him. At first, Kelly found him irritating. He showed up late to their sessions, cracked jokes instead of focusing, seemed to think his smile could substitute for actual studying. But slowly, he changed. He started showing up on time, paying attention, asking thoughtful questions, and he started looking at Kelly differently, like she was more than just the smart girl who could help him pass calculus. "You're really smart," he said one day after a particularly good session. "And funny. I like the sarcastic thing you do." Kelly had blushed, unused to compliments from boys like Adrian. He started showing up everywhere she was, at her locker between classes, at the library where she studied, at the coffee shop where she worked part-time weekends. Courtney, who'd been watching this unfold with barely contained glee, finally pulled Kelly aside. "He likes you, you idiot." "Who?" Adrian, the guy who's been following you around like a lovesick puppy for 2 months. Don't be ridiculous. I'm serious. He has a crush on you, and I think you like him too. Kelly wanted to deny it, but she couldn't. There was something about Adrian's attention that made her feel seen in a way she never had before. When Adrian finally asked her out, a nervous, stumbling invitation to the movies, Courtney practically pushed Kelly to say yes. Give him a chance, Courtney urged. Not every guy is going to leave like your dad did. So Kelly gave him a chance. They went to the movies, then to dinner, then to the homecoming dance. It was nice. More than nice. Kelly found herself laughing more, smiling more, letting her guard down. When Adrian asked her to be his girlfriend, Kelly hesitated. I need to think about it. Take all the time you need, Adrian said, squeezing her hand. Kelly spent a week agonizing over the decision. Finally, she decided to go for it. To be brave, to let herself love someone. She went to find Adrian to tell him yes. She found him in the library, in the back corner where students went to make out between classes. He was kissing Trisha Martinez, his ex-girlfriend, the head cheerleader, the girl who dumped him at the beginning of the school year. Kelly stood frozen, watching them. Adrian's hands in Trisha's hair, Trisha's arms around his neck. Then Adrian looked up and saw her. Kelly, wait. But Kelly was already running out of the library, out of the school, all the way home, where she locked herself in her room and swore she'd never be that stupid again. Adrian called, texted, showed up at her house. She ignored all of it. It wasn't what it looked like, he said through her bedroom door. She kissed me. I was about to push her away. Go away, Adrian. Kelly, please. I said go away. He did. Eventually. And Kelly built her first wall. Over the years, those walls got higher, stronger. She dated casually in college, in law school, but never seriously. She watched friends fall in love, get married, some of them divorce badly. She watched her mother go on a few dates, none of which went anywhere, and eventually give up on finding someone. I don't need a man, Martha would say. I have you, and that's enough. Kelly inherited that philosophy. She poured her energy into her career, into becoming the best lawyer she could be. She won case after case, built a reputation, made partner at 30. And now, sitting across from Courtney, she felt complete. Mostly. I've been thinking about something, Kelly said, swirling her wine. Uh-oh, that's never good. I want to have a baby. Courtney nearly dropped her glass. What? A baby? I want to be a mother. Okay, backing up. With who? No one. By myself. I want to be a single mother. Courtney stared at her. You're serious. Completely serious. I've always wanted kids, Court. You know that. But I don't want to get married. I don't want to depend on someone who might leave. I make enough money to support a child on my own. I have a stable career, a good apartment. Why not? Because raising a child alone is incredibly hard, Kel, Courtney protested. My mom did it, Kelly defended, and it nearly broke her. She worked herself to the bone to give you a good life. Do you really want that? It won't be like that. I have resources she didn't have. I can afford childcare, a good school, everything a kid needs. Courtney was quiet for a long moment. You're really serious about this? I am. Okay. Well, lucky for you, I work at a fertility clinic. Courtney was a fertility doctor, specializing in helping people become parents through various methods. But I need you to really think about this, Kelly. Don't make this decision lightly. Give it a week. If you still feel the same way, come see me and we'll talk about options. Kelly nodded. But she already knew. This was what she wanted. 2 days after returning from his mother's birthday, Derek found himself at the grocery store, of all places. His refrigerator was embarrassingly empty, a side effect of eating out every night and having no one to shop for but himself. He was in the produce section, trying to remember if he actually liked asparagus or just ordered it at restaurants, when he noticed her. Beautiful. That was his first thought. She was examining avocados with the intensity of a lawyer reviewing a contract, her phone pressed between her shoulder and ear, clearly on a work call. "Yes, I understand the timeline," she was saying, her voice crisp and professional. "But that doesn't change the fact that their evidence is circumstantial at best. I'll have the brief ready by Monday." Derek found himself watching her, intrigued. There was something about the way she carried herself, confident, self-assured, completely in command. Then, after she hung up, she put her phone in her pockets, but she didn't put it properly. Derek noticed her phone slipping. It was sliding out of her pocket, about to fall. He tried to signal her, waving his hand, but she glanced over, saw him staring, and immediately looked uncomfortable. She turned away. She must have thought he was some creep, so she walked away quickly. Her phone fell. Derek looked down at it, then at her retreating form. He contemplated picking the phone up. He then picked it up and called out, "Excuse me, you dropped your..." But she was already far gone. Derek sighed and rounded the corner to look for her. He could just leave it at customer service, but he was already walking. Kelly had just finished paying for her groceries when she felt eyes on her. She turned and saw that same guy from the produce section walking toward her with purpose. Great. A creep. She grabbed her bags and headed quickly toward the exit. The parking lot was mostly empty, the evening casting long shadows. "Ma'am!" the guy called out behind her. "Wait!" Kelly walked faster. Her car was just ahead. "Please, just stop for a second." Was he seriously following her? Kelly broke into a jog. Behind her, Derek saw her start running and, without thinking, ran too. "Just wait. You dropped..." Kelly fumbled for her keys, her heart pounding. She could see his reflection in her car window, getting closer. Without thinking, she spun around, grabbed the pepper spray from her purse, and sprayed it directly in his face. Derek's scream echoed through the parking lot. He stumbled backward, his hands covering his eyes. "What the... Why would you... Oh my God, it burns! Why were you chasing me?" Kelly demanded, her pepper spray still raised. "Your phone," Derek managed to choke out, holding up the phone in question. "You dropped your phone, and I was trying to return it." Kelly looked at the phone in his hand, then at her empty pocket, then back at his face, which was turning an alarming shade of red as he bent over, clearly in agony. "Oh no." "Oh no? That's all you have to say?" Derek's eyes were streaming, his voice hoarse. "I try to do something nice, and you assault me. You were chasing me through a dark parking lot. What was I supposed to think? That maybe I was trying to help. Did you not hear me calling out to you? I thought you were a creep." "Well, congratulations. You successfully pepper-sprayed a good Samaritan." He thrust the phone toward her, still unable to open his eyes properly. "Here's your damn phone." Kelly took it, guilt washing over her. "Look, I'm sorry. I didn't..." "Just get away from me," Derek snapped. "Crazy woman." "Crazy? Excuse me, but if you had just held up the phone or been clearer about what you wanted instead of just chasing me. I chased you because you started running. Well, maybe I wouldn't have run if you hadn't been staring at me like a weirdo in the produce section." "I wasn't staring. I was trying to warn you your phone was falling." "You were absolutely staring. You're impossible." Derek turned and walked away, or tried to. He stumbled slightly, still unable to see clearly. Kelly watched him stumble toward his car, part of her wanting to help, but he'd made it clear he wanted nothing to do with her. "Jerk!" she muttered, getting into her own car, but her hands were shaking. The next evening, Derek met Justin and Travis at their usual bar. He was still wearing sunglasses despite being indoors, his eyes still sensitive from the pepper spray. "What's with the shades, man? You trying to be incognito?" Travis asked, sliding a beer across to him. "I got pepper sprayed." Both his friends froze, then burst into laughter. "You what?" Justin managed between laughs. "It's not funny." "It's a little funny," Travis said. "How on earth did you get pepper sprayed?" Derek told them the story, and their laughter only grew louder. "Man, only you," Justin said, wiping tears from his eyes. "Only you could get attacked while trying to do something nice. She thought I was a creep." "Were you being creepy?" "No, I was trying to help." "Did you, announce what you were doing? Or did you just chase her silently through a dark parking lot?" Derek paused. "I may have just chased her." "Dude!" Travis shook his head. "You can't just chase women through parking lots without explanation. I was calling out to her." "Saying what, exactly?" "Wait and stop and—" Derek realized how that sounded. "Okay, in hindsight, I could have been clearer." They laughed for another 10 minutes before settling into their usual rhythm, drinking, talking, watching the game on the TV above the bar. "Oh hey," Travis said casually. "I ran into Valerie the other day." The mood shifted immediately. Justin shot Travis a warning look, but it was too late. Derek took a long drink. "How is she?" "Good. She was with her husband and their daughter. The kid's cute. Looks just like Valerie." Derek nodded slowly. He'd known intellectually that Valerie had gotten married, had raised the child she'd lied about. But hearing it confirmed still felt like a punch to the gut. "Good for her," he said, his voice carefully neutral. Justin changed the subject quickly, launching into a story about a disastrous date he'd been on, and soon they were laughing again. But that night, alone in his apartment, Derek couldn't stop thinking about it. Valerie had everything he'd wanted 7 years ago: a husband, a child, a family, and he had, what, money, cars, an empty bed, and a parade of women whose last names he didn't know. His mother's words echoed, "You're our only child, our only hope." Derek stood at his window, looking out at the city lights. What if there was a way to have a child without the risk of heartbreak? Without opening himself up to another Valerie? The idea formed slowly. A surrogate. He could be a father, could give his parents the grandchild they wanted, could create a family on his own terms, without the mess of a relationship. The more he thought about it, the more sense it made. He'd do it. He'd have a child. His way. Meanwhile, across the city, Kelly sat at her kitchen table, a mug of tea cooling in front of her, thinking about the same thing. She'd spent the week considering Courtney's advice, but her mind hadn't changed. She wanted this, wanted to be a mother. She picked up her phone and texted Courtney, "I'm sure. Let's talk about next steps." Courtney's response came quickly. "Come by the clinic tomorrow. We'll go over everything." Kelly smiled. This was really happening. The next day, Derek called Justin. "I need a favor." "Shoot, you said your cousin works at a fertility clinic, right?" "Courtney?" "Yeah. Why?" "I want to have a kid, via surrogate." Silence on the other end. Then, "Dude, are you serious?" "Dead serious. Have you thought this through?" "I have. I want to be a father. I don't want to get married or depend on someone who might screw me over. This is the solution." Justin sighed. "Okay. If you're sure, I'll give you her number. But man, think about this. Really think about it." "I have." That evening, Derek called the number Justin had given him and booked an appointment with Dr. Courtney Green. A week later, both Derek and Kelly sat in separate appointments at the same clinic, taking the first steps toward parenthood. Neither knew that their paths were about to collide in the most unexpected way. Neither knew that the universe had very different plans than the ones they'd made. Neither knew that the pepper spray incident in a grocery store parking lot was just the beginning. The waiting room of the New Bliss Fertility Clinic was designed to be calming. Soft blues and greens, abstract art on the walls, a water feature trickling peacefully in the corner. But Derek Walker felt anything but calm as he sat in one of the plush chairs, his leg bouncing with nervous energy. He checked his watch. 2:15. His appointment with Dr. Courtney Green was in 5 minutes. This was really happening. He was really going through with this. A nurse appeared in the doorway, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Walker, Dr. Green will see you now." Derek stood, smoothing down his suit jacket out of habit, and followed the nurse down a hallway lined with photographs of happy families. Parents holding newborns, toddlers laughing, pregnant women glowing with joy. He wondered if his photo would end up on one of these walls someday. Dr. Courtney Green's office was warm and welcoming, just like the woman herself. She stood when Derek entered, extending her hand with a professional smile that reminded him of Justin. "Mr. Walker, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Dr. Green, but please, call me Courtney. Any friend of Justin's is practically family." Derek shook her hand, relaxing slightly. "Thank you for seeing me on such short notice. And please, call me Derek. Of course, Justin mentioned you're interested in surrogacy." Courtney gestured for him to sit. "Yes, I want to be a father, but I'm not. I'm not looking to settle down right now, or maybe ever. Surrogacy seems like the best option for me." Courtney nodded, her expression carefully neutral and professional. "I understand. Before we proceed, I need to make sure you understand what this process entails. It's not just the medical procedures. There are legal considerations, psychological evaluations, financial commitments. This is a significant decision. I know. I've done my research." "Good." Courtney pulled out a folder. "Then let's talk about what comes next." For the next hour, they discussed the process in detail. Derek would provide a sample, undergo health screenings, complete psychological evaluations. The clinic would match him with a suitable surrogate based on health criteria, personality compatibility, and Derek's preferences. "You'll have the opportunity to meet your surrogate before any procedures," Courtney explained. "It's important that you both feel comfortable with the arrangement. Some intended parents want to be very involved throughout the pregnancy, attending appointments, being present for the birth. Others prefer a more hands-off approach. That's something you and your surrogate will need to discuss." "I want to be involved," Derek said immediately. "I want to be there for everything." Courtney smiled. "That's wonderful. Many surrogates appreciate that level of involvement. It makes them feel like they're truly helping create a family, not just providing a service." By the end of the appointment, Derek had filled out what felt like 100 forms, provided his sample, and scheduled his psychological evaluation for the following week. The whole process felt surreal, clinical, and businesslike, yet somehow deeply personal. "How long until I'm matched with a surrogate?" Derek asked, as Courtney walked him to the door. "It varies, but typically within a few weeks. We have several surrogates currently in our program who might be a good match for you. Once we complete your evaluations and find the right fit, we'll schedule a meeting. And then, if everyone is comfortable moving forward, we'll schedule the procedure. If everything goes well, you could be a father within the year." A father. Within the year, Derek felt his heart race. This was real. This was actually happening. He left the clinic feeling lighter than he had in years. He sat in his car for a moment, staring at the building, then pulled out his phone and texted Justin and Travis. "Did it. No turning back now." Justin's response came immediately. "Proud of you, man. Uncle Justin has a nice ring to it," Travis texted. Uncle Travis sounds better. I'll be the cool uncle. Derek smiled, pocketing his phone and starting his car. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time since Valerie, he felt hope. A few hours later, Kelly James sat in the waiting room, feeling a mixture of nerves and excitement. This was it. The day she'd been thinking about for weeks, planning for months, dreaming about for years. "Kelly?" Courtney appeared in the doorway, her professional mask slipping into a warm smile reserved for her best friend. "Ready?" Kelly stood, smoothing down her skirt. "As ready as I'll ever be." In Courtney's office, the conversation was less formal than the one she'd had with Derek earlier that day. They'd already been through most of this. Kelly had attended her initial consultation weeks ago, completed her psychological screening, gone through all the legal paperwork. Today was about finalizing her choice of donor. Courtney pulled out a binder filled with donor profiles, pages and pages of anonymous men reduced to statistics and descriptions: height, weight, eye color, hair color, education level, medical history, interests, personality traits. Kelly had been through this binder a dozen times already, but Courtney walked her through it again patiently. "You were leaning toward donor 4782 last time we talked," Courtney said, flipping to the page. "Has that changed?" Kelly looked at the profile. 6'1", athletic build, brown eyes, black hair, bachelor's degree in engineering, master's in business, no family history of genetic disorders. Enjoys reading, hiking, playing basketball. Described as intelligent, thoughtful, and kind. On paper, he was perfect, anonymous enough that Kelly would never have to worry about him disrupting her life, yet accomplished and healthy enough that she felt good about her child's genetic makeup. "No," Kelly said finally, "he's the one." Courtney made a note. "Okay, then we'll move forward with donor 4782. Your procedure is scheduled for next week. Do you have any questions? Any concerns?" Kelly hesitated. "What if I mess it up? What if I'm a terrible mother?" "You won't be." Courtney reached across the desk and took Kelly's hand. "You're one of the strongest, most capable people I know. And more importantly, you already love this hypothetical child so much that you're terrified of failing them. That's what makes you a good mother." Kelly felt tears prick her eyes. "When did you become so wise?" "I've always been wise. You just never listened to me." They both laughed, the tension breaking. A week later, Kelly returned to the clinic for the procedure. She'd taken the day off work, told her secretary she had a personal appointment. Only Courtney knew what she was really doing. The procedure itself was quick and clinical, far less romantic than how she'd imagined becoming a mother as a little girl. But as she lay on the examination table, staring at the ceiling tiles, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. This was right. This was what she wanted. "All done," the nurse said with an encouraging smile. "Now we wait." A week ago, Derek had received a call from Courtney. "I think we've found a match for you," she'd said. "Her name is Rebecca. She's 29. She's been a surrogate once before, very successfully. I think you two would work well together." Derek's heart raced. "When can I meet her?" "How about tomorrow? 2 o'clock?" The next day, Derek arrived at the clinic 15 minutes early, his nerves making him pace the waiting room. When Courtney finally called him in, he found a petite blonde woman sitting in the office, her smile warm and genuine. "Derek, this is Rebecca Matthews." "Rebecca, this is Derek Walker." They shook hands, sized each other up. Rebecca had kind eyes and laugh lines around her mouth. She looked like someone who baked cookies and volunteered at school functions. "It's nice to meet you," Rebecca said. "Dr. Green has told me a lot about you. All good things, I hope." "Mostly." Rebecca's eyes twinkled with humor. They'd spent an hour talking about Derek's reasons for wanting a child, about Rebecca's experience as a surrogate, about expectations and boundaries. By the end of the meeting, Derek felt comfortable, more than comfortable. He felt like this could actually work. "So," Courtney said, looking between them, "are we moving forward?" Derek looked at Rebecca. She nodded. "Yes," Derek said. "Let's do this." The procedure had been scheduled for this week. Derek had provided his sample again, signed more paperwork, went through more evaluations. Everything was handled with the utmost professionalism and care. The day of the procedure, Derek waited at home, unable to focus on work. His phone was in his hand constantly, as if he could will it to ring with good news. It didn't ring. Not that day. Not the next. But 2 weeks after that, Rebecca took a pregnancy test, and 3 weeks after the procedure, Derek's phone finally rang. He answered on the first ring. "Hello? Derek, it's Courtney. I have news." His heart stopped. "And? Congratulations, Rebecca is pregnant. You're going to be a father." Derek sank onto his couch, his legs suddenly unable to support him. I'm going to be a dad? You're going to be a dad." After he hung up, Derek sat in stunned silence for a full minute. Then he grabbed his phone and immediately called Justin and Travis on a 3-way call. "Guys," he said when they both answered, "it worked. The surrogate is pregnant. I'm going to be a father." There was a beat of shocked silence, then Justin's voice. "Holy moly, man. Congratulations. This is crazy," Travis added. "You're actually doing this." "I'm actually doing this," Derek repeated, still not quite believing it. "We need to celebrate," Justin declared. "Tonight. Drinks on me." "Drinks on you?" Travis scoffed. "The man's having a kid. Drinks are on him. He can afford it." They bantered and joked, making plans to meet at their usual bar. But after Derek hung up, he sat alone in his apartment, a smile spreading across his face. He was going to be a father. Finally. After 7 years of pain and heartbreak and building walls, he was finally getting the family he'd always wanted. That same week, Kelly stood in her bathroom, staring at a pregnancy test. 2 pink lines, positive. She'd taken 3 tests, just to be sure. All positive. She was pregnant. She was actually pregnant. Kelly sank to the floor, her back against the bathtub, tears streaming down her face. But these weren't sad tears. These were tears of joy, of relief, of overwhelming emotion. She was going to be a mother. With shaking hands, she pulled out her phone and called Courtney. "Court," she said when her friend answered. "It's positive. I'm pregnant." She heard Courtney's sharp intake of breath, then her friend's voice, thick with emotion. "Oh, Kelly. Sweetheart, I'm so happy for you. I can't believe it. I'm actually going to have a baby. You're going to be an amazing mother." They talked for another 20 minutes, Courtney answering Kelly's anxious questions about what came next, when her first appointment should be, what symptoms were normal. After they hung up, Kelly sat on her bathroom floor for a long time, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. "Hi, baby," she whispered. "I'm your mom, and I already love you so much." Everything was perfect. Her plan had worked. She was going to have a baby, raise them on her own terms, give them the life she'd always dreamed of providing. Everything was absolutely perfect. For 3 glorious days, both Derek and Kelly walked on air. Their plans had worked. Their futures were unfolding exactly as they'd hoped. And then Courtney's phone rang. Courtney was in the middle of reviewing patient files when her office line rang. She glanced at the caller ID. Dr. Richard Morrison, the clinic director. Odd. Richard rarely called her directly unless something was wrong. "Dr. Green," she answered. "Courtney, I need you to come to my office immediately." Richard's voice was strained, urgent. Courtney's stomach dropped. "What's wrong?" "Just, please come now." She hurried down the hallway. her mind racing through possibilities. A complaint? A lawsuit? A medical complication? When she entered Richard's office, she found him behind his desk, his normally composed face pale and drawn. In his hands was a file folder that he was gripping so tightly his knuckles had turned white. "Sit down," he said. Courtney sat, her heart hammering. "Richard, you're scaring me. What's going on?" He opened the file folder, and Courtney saw lab reports, procedure documents, patient information. Her eyes scanned the pages, trying to understand what she was looking at. Then she saw it. 2 names, 2 procedures, same date, Kelly James, Derek Walker, and 2 samples that had been switched. "No," Courtney breathed. No, this can't be. There was a mix-up in the lab," Richard said, his voice hollow. "A terrible, inexcusable mix-up. The samples were mislabeled. Mr. Walker's sample was used for Miss James's procedure, and the anonymous donor sample Miss James selected was used for Mr. Walker's surrogate." Courtney felt like she might be sick. How? How did this happen? "We're still investigating. It appears to have been human error during the labeling process. The lab tech who handled the samples has been suspended pending review." "Suspended? Suspended?" Courtney stood, her hands shaking. "Richard, do you understand what this means? Kelly is pregnant with Derek's baby. Derek's surrogate is pregnant with a stranger's baby. Their entire lives have just been turned upside down because of human error. I know. And we're going to do everything we can to make this right." Make this right? How do you make this right? They both came here with specific plans, specific wishes. Kelly wanted an anonymous donor so she could be a single mother. Derek wanted a surrogate so he could have a child without the complications of a relationship. And now, she broke off, pressing her hand to her forehead. "Oh God, Kelly is going to kill me." "You need to tell them. Both of them. As soon as possible." "I can't tell them this over the phone, Richard. I need to do this in person. Then do it in person. But do it soon. Every day we wait makes this worse." Courtney left Richard's office in a daze. She walked back to her own office on autopilot, closed the door, and sank into her chair. Kelly, her best friend since high school. The woman who had stood by her through every heartbreak, every triumph, every crisis. Kelly, who had trusted Courtney with her dream of becoming a mother. And Derek, Justin's friend, a client who had come to her clinic in good faith, trusting that his wishes would be respected. She'd failed them both. Courtney pulled out her phone with trembling hands and called Derek first. "Dr. Green," Derek answered on the second ring, his voice cheerful. "What can I do for you?" "Derek, I need you to come to my office, tomorrow if possible." His tone shifted, becoming cautious. "Is something wrong? Is Rebecca okay? I can't discuss it over the phone, but I need to see you as soon as possible. Can you come in tomorrow afternoon? Say, 1 o'clock? There was a pause. "You're worrying me, Dr. Green. I know. I'm sorry. But please, just trust me. 1 o'clock tomorrow? I'll be there." After she hung up, Courtney sat for a moment, gathering her courage, then called Kelly. "Hey, Court," Kelly answered, her voice happy and relaxed. "What's up?" "Kelly, I need you to come to my office. Tomorrow. It's important." Kelly's tone changed immediately. "What's wrong? Is it the baby? Is something wrong with the baby?" "Nothing's wrong with the baby. But there's been a situation. I need to talk to you in person." "Courtney, you're scaring me. I know. I'm sorry. Can you come in tomorrow? Around 3 o'clock? Yes, I'll be there. But, Court, tomorrow, Kelly. I'll explain everything tomorrow." That night, Courtney barely slept. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, rehearsing what she would say. How did you tell 2 people that their lives had been irrevocably changed by a mistake? How did you apologize for something so catastrophic? The next day, at precisely 1 o'clock, Derek walked into her office. He was dressed in an expensive suit, looking every inch the successful businessman. But Courtney could see the tension in his shoulders, the concern in his eyes. "Dr. Green," he said, sitting down across from her. "What's this about? You sounded serious on the phone." Courtney gestured for him to sit. Her hands were trembling, and she clasped them together to hide it. "Derek, there's been a situation at the clinic. A very serious mistake." His expression hardened immediately. "What kind of mistake?" Courtney took a deep breath. There was no easy way to say this. There was a mix-up in the lab. "Your sample. It wasn't used for your surrogate's procedure." Derek stared at her. "What do you mean it wasn't used? Then whose baby is she carrying?" "An anonymous donor's sample was used for Rebecca's procedure. And your sample, it was used for another client's procedure." The silence in the room was deafening. Courtney watched as Derek processed this information, his face going from confusion to shock to something that looked like barely controlled rage. "What do you mean it was used for another client?" His voice was dangerously low, controlled in a way that was somehow more frightening than if he'd been shouting. "Are you telling me some stranger is pregnant with my child?" "Yes. A woman who came to the clinic to become a single mother using an anonymous donor. She just found out she was pregnant few days ago." Derek slammed his hand on the desk, making Courtney jump despite herself. "I don't care about their timeline. How does something like this even happen? How does a professional fertility clinic, a place people trust with their most important decisions, make a mistake like this? There was human error in the labeling process." "Human error?" Derek stood, pacing the office like a caged animal. "Do you have any idea what I've been through? What I went through to get to this point? I didn't sign up to co-parent with some stranger. I wanted my own child, not this mess. I wanted to be the sole guardian. I understand you're angry." "Angry? I'm furious." He ran his hand over his face, his jaw clenched so tight, Courtney could see the muscle jumping. "Who is she? This woman carrying my child?" "I can't disclose that right now. I need to speak with her first and get her consent to share information. But Derek, you both have options. You can both decide whether to continue with the pregnancy or terminate and start over." Derek stopped pacing, turning to look at her with an expression of disbelief. "Terminate? You want me to ask this woman to terminate my child? I'm not saying what you should do. I'm saying you have options. Both of you do. This is unbelievable." He shook his head, running his hands through his hair. "Unfreaking believable. I trusted you. Justin vouched for you. And I trusted this clinic to handle this with care and professionalism." "Derek, I need to think." He headed for the door, then paused. "When can I meet her? This woman? I need to speak with her first. But soon, I'll call you." After he left, Courtney sat in her office, her head in her hands. That had gone about as badly as she'd expected, and she still had to tell Kelly. At 3 o'clock, Kelly arrived. She walked into the office looking worried, her hand unconsciously resting on her still flat stomach. "Hey, Court," she said, sitting down. "What's going on? You sounded weird on the phone yesterday." Courtney's eyes welled up despite her best efforts to remain professional. "Kelly, I don't know how to tell you this." Kelly's face fell. "Oh God, what happened? Is something wrong with the baby?" No, there's nothing medically wrong with the baby." Courtney took a deep breath. "But there was a mistake at the clinic. The sperm sample used for your procedure, it wasn't the anonymous donor you selected." Kelly blinked, clearly not understanding. "What? Then, whose was it?" "Another client's. A man who came to the clinic to have a child via surrogate. His sample was mistakenly used for your procedure." Courtney watched as the color drained from Kelly's face. Her best friend sat frozen for a long moment, processing this information. Then her eyes blazed with a fury Courtney had rarely seen. "How could this happen, Courtney?" Kelly's voice was shaking with rage. "How? I specifically chose an anonymous donor. I had a plan. I knew exactly what I was doing. And now, you're telling me I'm pregnant with some random man's baby?" "Kelly, I'm so sorry." "Sorry?" Kelly stood, beginning to pace just as Derek had hours earlier. "I should sue them. I should sue the entire clinic into the ground. Do you know how many lawyers I know who would take this case in a heartbeat?" "Kelly, please. The only reason I'm not taking legal action right now, the only reason, is because you're my best friend," Kelly said, her voice cold in a way Courtney had never heard before. "But I swear, Courtney, if this wasn't you, do you know how this changes everything? I'm supposed to be a single mother by choice, and now I'm tied to some stranger for the rest of my life." I know, and I'm so sorry. But Kelly, you have options. You can choose to terminate and start over with the correct donor, or you can choose to continue. Kelly pressed her hand to her forehead, looking dizzy. "Who is he? This man?" "I can schedule a meeting for you both," Courtney said carefully. "But right now, he's just as upset as you are." "I don't care how upset he is. This is my body, my life, my plan that's been ruined. Kelly, I need to go." Kelly grabbed her purse, heading for the door. "I can't. I need to think." "Kelly, wait." But she was already gone. Courtney sat alone in her office as the sun set outside her window, feeling like her world was crumbling. She'd hurt the two people who had trusted her most, and she had no idea how to fix it. Kelly made it to her car before the tears started. She sat in the parking lot, her hands gripping the steering wheel, sobs racking her body. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. She'd planned everything so carefully. She'd thought through every scenario, every possibility. She'd been so sure of her decision, so confident in her choice. And now, it was all ruined. She drove home in a daze, barely registering the traffic around her. When she got to her apartment, she collapsed on her couch and cried until she had no tears left. Her phone buzzed. A text from Courtney. "I'm coming over. Please don't try to stop me." Kelly didn't have the energy to respond. An hour later, there was a knock on her door. Kelly dragged herself off the couch and opened it to find Courtney standing there with a bottle of wine and a bottle of sparkling juice. "Wine for me, juice for you," Courtney said softly. "And before you tell me to leave, I'm not going anywhere. We're best friends, Kelly, and best friends don't abandon each other, even when, especially when, they've messed up." Kelly wanted to be angry, wanted to slam the door in Courtney's face, but she couldn't. She was too tired, too devastated, too scared. She stepped aside and let Courtney in. They sat on the couch. The same couch where they'd had 100 girls' nights over the years. Courtney poured herself a glass of wine and handed Kelly the sparkling juice. "I'm so sorry," Courtney said, her own eyes red from crying. "Kelly, I'm so sorry. If I could go back and change this, I would. If I could take your place, carry this burden for you, I would." Kelly wiped her eyes. I know it's not your fault, but Court, I worked so hard to get here. I planned everything perfectly, and now it's all ruined. I know this isn't what you planned. But Kelly, before you make any decision, I need you to really think about this. What's there to think about? This whole situation is a disaster. Courtney set down her wine glass and turned to face Kelly fully. Maybe, but that baby inside you is still a baby. And if you terminate now just to start over, you'll be doing the exact same thing, having a baby as a single mother. The only difference is you'll know who the father is this time. Kelly shook her head. That's a pretty big difference, Court. Is it though? Think about it. Really think about it. Courtney took Kelly's hand. You were going to use an anonymous donor. You'd never know anything about that person. Your child would grow up never knowing half of their genetic makeup, never knowing their father's medical history, never having the option to meet him. They'd grow up with questions you couldn't answer. Where do I get my curly hair from? My talent for music? My allergies? You wouldn't know. Kelly was quiet, listening. But now, Courtney continued, your child will know who their father is. They'll have access to their complete medical history. They'll know where they come from. And maybe, just maybe, they'll have a father who wants to be involved. I don't want to co-parent with a stranger, Kelly said, her voice small. You don't have to co-parent in the traditional sense. You can figure out an arrangement that works for both of you. But Kelly, think about the baby. Don't you want your child to have the option of knowing their father? Don't you want them to have that choice? Kelly placed her hand protectively over her stomach. She thought about her own father, the man who had walked out when she was 4. She'd grown up with a gaping hole in her life, always wondering why he'd left, what she'd done wrong, if he ever thought about her. She'd never wanted that for her own child. And honestly, Courtney said gently, is it really worth terminating a pregnancy just to start over and do essentially the same thing? You're already pregnant, Kelly. Your body is already going through this. You were happy 3 days ago when you found out. You were glowing. You called me crying tears of joy. Why put yourself through the trauma of terminating just to end up in the same place a few months from now? Kelly looked down at her stomach, her hand still resting there protectively. I'm scared, Court. I know. But you're one of the strongest people I know. You can handle this. What if he's awful? What if he's some controlling jerk who tries to take over? Then you deal with it. You're a lawyer, Kelly. You know how to protect yourself. You can draw up agreements, establish boundaries. You don't have to give up control of your life. They sat in silence for a while, Kelly processing everything Courtney had said. Will you think about it? Courtney asked. Before you make a final decision, will you at least meet him? Talk to him? Kelly took a shaky breath. I don't know if I can. You can. You're Kelly James. You've faced down judges, opposing counsel, hostile witnesses. You can handle a conversation with one man. What if I hate him? Then at least you'll know. But Kelly, what if you don't? What if he's reasonable? What if he's just as scared as you are? Kelly wiped her eyes. I'll think about it. That's all I can promise right now. That's all I'm asking. Meanwhile, across town, Derek sat at a bar with Justin and Travis, nursing a whiskey and looking like someone had killed his dog. I just wanted a kid, man, he said, staring into his glass. That's it. I didn't want all this drama. Travis leaned forward. So what are you going to do? You gonna ask her to terminate? Derek shrugged, the movement heavy with defeat. I don't know. Maybe it's better to just start over. Do it right this time. Justin shook his head firmly. Bro, think about what you're saying. You wanted a kid. You wanted to be a father. And now, there's a woman out there who's pregnant with your child. Your actual biological child. And you want to throw that away just because it didn't happen the way you planned? It's not that simple, Justin. Isn't it, though? Travis chimed in. Look, I get it. This isn't ideal. But when is anything in life ever ideal? You're gonna have a kid either way, right? The question is, do you want to throw away this chance just to start over and hope the next one goes according to plan? Derek was quiet, considering this. Justin continued, his voice earnest. And think about the kid, man. If you go the surrogate route again, that kid will never know their mother. They'll grow up with a bunch of questions about where they came from, who gave birth to them. But if you go through with this, your kid will know both parents. They'll have a complete picture of where they come from. Isn't that better? Plus, Travis added, you'll actually know the mother of your child. You can make sure she's taking care of herself during the pregnancy. You can be there for the ultrasounds, the birth, All of it. You wanted to be a father, right? Well, this is your chance to actually be one from day one. Not just some guy who gets handed a baby at the end. Derek rubbed his temples. I don't even know this woman. What if we can't stand each other? Then you figure it out, Justin said, clapping him on the shoulder. You're a smart guy, Derek. You've navigated way more complicated business deals than this. You can handle co-parenting. And who knows, Travis said with a slight grin. Maybe she's cool. Maybe this whole mess turns into something good. Derek snorted. Doubt it. Either way, you've got a decision to make, Justin said seriously. But if you ask me, you'd be crazy to walk away from your own kid just because the situation isn't perfect. Life is never perfect, man. You of all people should know that. Derek thought about Valerie, about how perfect he'd thought their life was, right up until it fell apart, about how he'd spent 7 years trying to control every aspect of his life to avoid ever being hurt again. Maybe Justin and Travis were right. Maybe control was an illusion anyway. What if she wants to terminate? He asked quietly. Then you talk to her. You tell her what you want. You figure it out together. Justin squeezed his shoulder. But you can't make a decision out of fear, Derek. You can't let what Valerie did 7 years ago rob you of being a father now. Over the next few days, both Kelly and Derek thought long and hard about their options. Kelly kept replaying Courtney's words in her head, kept thinking about her own fatherless childhood, kept placing her hand on her stomach and feeling the life growing inside her. Derek kept hearing Justin and Travis's advice, kept thinking about the baby, his baby, and what kind of father he wanted to be. Finally, on the same day, they both made their decisions. Kelly called Courtney first. I'm keeping the baby. Courtney exhaled, relief flooding her voice. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. I'm still terrified. But you're right. This baby deserves to know where they come from, and I can't put myself through terminating just to end up doing the same thing a few months from now. I'm already pregnant. This is already happening. You're going to be an amazing mother, Kelly. I hope so. But Court, I need to meet him. This man. I need to know who he is before I can figure out how to move forward. I'll set it up. An hour later, Derek called. I'm in. I want to move forward with this. Are you sure? Courtney asked. Yeah, this is my kid. I'm not walking away from that. I don't care if the situation is messy or complicated. I wanted to be a father, and this is my chance. Courtney smiled for the first time in days. Okay, I think it's time you two met and talked about how you're going to handle this. She arranged for them to meet at her office the following week, scheduling them for the same time slot. She didn't tell either of them about the other's identity. She thought it might be better if they met face to face without preconceived notions. In hindsight, maybe she should have prepared them better. The day of the meeting, Derek arrived at Courtney's office precisely on time. He was dressed in one of his best suits, armor, really, for what he expected to be a difficult conversation. His jaw was tight, his arms crossed as he sat in the chair across from Courtney's desk. She should be here any minute, Courtney said, checking her watch nervously. Derek nodded, not trusting himself to speak. He'd rehearsed what he wanted to say 100 times. He needed to be calm, rational, professional. He needed to make it clear that he wanted to be involved, but that he wasn't trying to take over her life. He needed to... There was a knock on the door. Come in, Courtney called. The door opened, and Kelly walked in wearing a professional blazer, her hair pulled back, her expression guarded. Then she saw him, the man sitting in Courtney's office, the man she'd pepper-sprayed in a parking lot. Kelly froze in the doorway. Derek looked up, and their eyes met. Recognition dawned on both their faces at exactly the same time. You've got to be kidding me, Derek said, standing up slowly. Oh no. No. Kelly said, pointing at him. Not him, anyone but him. Courtney looked between them, confused and alarmed. Wait, you two know each other? She's the crazy woman who pepper sprayed me, Derek said, his voice rising. He's the creep who chased me through a parking lot. Kelly shot back. I was trying to return your phone. You were chasing me in the dark. Courtney raised her hands. Okay, everyone needs to calm down. Calm down. Kelly whirled on her. You expect me to calm down when you tell me I'm having a baby with the man who chased me through a parking lot? I wasn't chasing you, Derek shouted. I was trying to help you. By running after me like a psycho, you were the one running. Both of you, sit down. Courtney's voice cut through the shouting. Kelly and Derek both froze, then slowly, reluctantly, sat down, though they chose chairs as far apart as possible. Courtney closed her eyes and took a deep breath. This is going to be even harder than I thought. You think? Kelly said sarcastically. I can't believe this, Kelly muttered. Of all the men in this city, it had to be him. Trust me, the feeling's mutual, Derek shot back. I'm having a kid with a paranoid woman who attacks people for trying to help her. I didn't know you were trying to help. You were chasing me in a dark parking lot. Because you were running. If you'd just stopped for 2 seconds. Enough! Courtney slammed her hand on the desk, making them both jump. Look, I know this is awkward. Beyond awkward. But the reality is, you're both going to be parents to the same child. Whether you like each other or not, you need to figure out how to make this work. Kelly and Derek exchanged another glare before looking away from each other. Courtney continued, her voice firm. You've both decided to move forward with the pregnancy, which I think is the right decision. Now, you need to establish some ground rules and figure out a co-parenting arrangement. I don't want him involved, Kelly said flatly. Derek's head snapped toward her. Excuse me? You heard me. I was planning to be a single mother anyway. Nothing's changed except now I know who the donor is. You can sign away your parental rights, and we can both move on with our lives. Derek leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous. That's my child you're carrying. There's no freaking way I'm signing away my rights. Why do you even care? You wanted a surrogate. You wanted someone to carry your baby and then hand it over. Well, congratulations. You got your wish, except I'm keeping the baby. That's not the same thing at all. I wanted to raise my child. I wanted to be a father, not some stranger on the sidelines paying child support. Kelly stood up, her fists clenched. Then maybe you should have been more careful about where you left your sample. Derek stood too, towering over her. Maybe you should have been more careful about who you chose to reproduce with. I didn't choose you. Well, I didn't choose you either. Both of you, sit down right now. Courtney was on her feet now too, her face flushed with anger and frustration. They both sat, breathing heavily, still glaring at each other across the office. Courtney rubbed her face with both hands. This is my fault. The clinic's fault. And I'm forever grateful to both of you for not pressing charges against us, which I know you both have every right to do. But right now, we need to focus on what's best for this baby. And what's best is for both of you to put aside your differences and work together. Kelly's eyes filled with tears despite her anger. I don't know if I can do this, Court. I can't co-parent with him. He already hates me. I don't hate you, Derek said quietly. Both women looked at him in surprise. He sighed, his shoulders dropping. I don't hate you. I don't even know you. But I know that you're carrying my child, and that means something to me. It means everything to me. Kelly wiped her eyes, her voice softening slightly. I don't know you either. Courtney saw an opening and seized it. Then maybe you should get to know each other. Not as enemies, but as two people who are about to become parents. Derek and Kelly looked at each other, the hostility fading slightly, replaced by uncertainty and something that might have been curiosity. How about this? Courtney suggested carefully. You two agree to have dinner. Just one dinner. Talk. Get to know each other beyond pepper spray incidents and parking lot chases. If after that, you still can't stand each other, we'll figure out a different arrangement. But at least give it a shot. Kelly hesitated, looking at Derek warily. I don't know. Look, Derek said, his voice calm now, measured. I agree with Courtney. We're both mature adults, and we need to handle this maturely, for the baby's sake, if nothing else. So, one dinner? Kelly studied him for a long moment. Despite everything, the pepper spray, the shouting match, the anger, she could see something in his eyes. Sincerity, maybe, or vulnerability. Finally, she nodded. Fine, one dinner. 2 days later, Derek made a reservation at Russo's, a nice Italian restaurant in the city, upscale enough to feel respectful, but not so fancy that it felt like a date. Because this definitely wasn't a date. This was a business meeting, a negotiation, a getting to know the person you're stuck with for the next 18 years dinner. He arrived 10 minutes early, dressed in slacks and a button-down shirt with no tie. He debated the tie. Too formal seemed like he was trying too hard, but too casual seemed disrespectful. In the end, he went for somewhere in between. He was shown to a table near the back, somewhere relatively private. He sat with his back to the wall, a habit from his years in business negotiations, and tried to calm his nerves. This was ridiculous. He'd presented to boards of directors, negotiated multi-million-dollar deals, stared down CEOs without blinking. Why was he nervous about dinner with a woman he didn't even like? Because she's carrying your child, a voice in his head reminded him. Because this conversation will set the tone for the rest of your life. At exactly 7 o'clock, Kelly arrived. She spotted him immediately and walked over, her guard clearly up. She was wearing a simple but elegant dress, her hair down around her shoulders. She looked beautiful. Not that Derek was going to mention that. Hi, she said as she sat down. Hi, Derek replied. Thanks for coming. Courtney would have killed me if I didn't. Derek smiled slightly. Yeah, she can be scary when she wants to be. An awkward silence settled over them. They both picked up their menus, studying them with more intensity than any menu deserved. The waiter appeared, breaking the tension. Good evening. Can I start you off with something to drink? Kelly ordered sparkling water. Derek almost ordered whiskey, then changed his mind and ordered water too. If she couldn't drink, it seemed wrong for him to. After the waiter left, they sat in silence for another moment. Finally, Derek cleared his throat. So, I guess we should start over. Properly this time, without pepper spray or accusations. Kelly's lips twitched in what might have been the beginning of a smile. That would be nice. Derek extended his hand across the table. I'm Derek Walker. Kelly looked at his hand for a moment, then reached out and shook it. Her hand was smaller than his, warm, with a firm grip. Kelly James. They held eye contact as they shook hands, and for the first time since they'd met, there was no hostility between them. Just two people trying to figure out an impossible situation. Kelly James, Derek repeated, releasing her hand. Courtney mentioned you're a lawyer, right? Yeah. I just made partner at Morgan & Associates a few months ago. There was pride in her voice. You? I work in investments. Been doing it for about 10 years now. Kelly nodded. Courtney also mentioned you're well off. Derek shifted uncomfortably. I do okay. Don't be modest. She said, you're loaded. Does that bother you? Kelly shrugged. No. I make good money too. I don't need yours. Derek smiled, genuinely, for the first time. Good to know. I wasn't planning on offering. Kelly's lips twitched again, closer to an actual smile this time. Good. The waiter returned with their drinks and took their food orders. After he left, Derek leaned back in his chair, studying Kelly. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Sure. Why did you want to have a baby on your own? I mean, you're successful, beautiful. I'm sure you could have found someone to settle down with if you wanted." Kelly raised an eyebrow. "Did you just call me beautiful?" Derek's ears turned slightly red. "I'm just stating a fact. Don't let it go to your head." Kelly allowed herself a small smile. "To answer your question, I didn't want to settle down. I've seen too many marriages fall apart." She paused, seeming to decide how much to share. "My dad left my mom when I was little, 4 years old, and she struggled to raise me on her own. She never went to college, so she didn't have great job prospects. She worked as a waitress, sometimes pulling double shifts just to keep a roof over our heads." Derek's expression softened. "That must have been hard." "It was. I watched her struggle, watched her work herself to the bone, and I swore I'd never depend on anyone like that. I'd never put myself in a position where someone could walk away and leave me struggling." "So you decided to do it alone from the start." "Exactly. I can provide for my child. I don't need someone else to do it for me." Derek nodded slowly. "That makes sense. I can respect that." "What about you?" Kelly asked. "Why the surrogate route?" Derek was quiet for a moment, debating how much to share. But if they were going to co-parent, she deserved to know. "My ex-girlfriend, Valerie, 7 years ago, she told me she was pregnant. I was over the moon. We'd been together since high school. I was ready to propose, ready to be a father, ready to build a family." Kelly watched him, her expression softening as she listened. "Then I came home one day and found her kissing her boss in our apartment. Turns out, she'd been having an affair with him for months. The baby wasn't mine. It was his." "Oh my God," Kelly breathed. "Derek, I'm so sorry. That must have been horrible." "It was. It broke me for a while. But I eventually channeled all that pain into my career. Told myself I didn't need anyone. But my mom," he smiled wryly. "My mom kept asking about grandkids, and I realized I had been so excited when I thought I was going to become a father. I guess I did want to be a father. I just didn't want to open myself up to that kind of hurt again." Kelly nodded slowly. "I understand that. More than you know." They sat in comfortable silence until their food arrived. As they ate, the conversation began to flow more easily, like water finding its path around rocks. They talked about their jobs, Kelly's recent victory in a difficult case, Derek's successful merger deal. They talked about their friends, Courtney's eternal optimism and matchmaking attempts, Justin and Travis's terrible jokes, and unwavering loyalty. "Wait, Justin Miller is your friend?" Derek asked. "Tall guy, terrible sense of humor, always trying to set people up?" "That's Courtney's cousin," Kelly said. "I've met him a few times at Courtney's family gatherings." Small world. They talked about their interests. Kelly admitted she loved old movies, black and white classics that made her cry every time. She confessed a secret weakness for romance novels, despite her cynicism about relationships. "Don't judge me," she said, her cheeks flushing slightly. "I know it's hypocritical, but I can't help it. There's something about a happy ending that gets me every time, even if I don't believe in them in real life." "I'm not judging," Derek said, and he meant it. "We all have our escapes. What's yours?" "Music. I play piano. It's peaceful. When I'm playing, everything else fades away. I'd like to hear you play sometime." Derek blinked, surprised. "Really? Really? If we're going to be in each other's lives, I should know more about you than just your terrible parking lot etiquette." Derek laughed. Actually laughed. "My terrible parking lot etiquette? You attacked me. You chased me. I was returning your phone." They were bantering now, the tension from earlier completely gone. Kelly found herself actually enjoying his company, which was shocking considering how this evening had started. Derek learned that Kelly was funny. Not just witty, but genuinely funny, with a sarcastic sense of humor that caught him off guard and made him laugh. Kelly learned that Derek was thoughtful. He listened when she talked, asked follow-up questions, seemed genuinely interested in her answers. "Wait, how many pairs?" Kelly asked, laughing, when he mentioned his sneaker collection. "I'm not telling you. You'll judge me. I'm already judging you. Fine, about 80. Kelly's eyes widened. 80 pairs of shoes? They're collectibles. They're shoes, Derek. You only have 2 feet. And you only have 2 eyes, but I bet you have more than 2 pairs of glasses. That's different. Glasses serve a function. So do my shoes. They're investments. They're a shopping addiction is what they are." They bantered back and forth, their voices rising with laughter, drawing amused looks from nearby tables. Neither of them noticed. They were too caught up in the moment, in the surprising ease of talking to each other. As the dinner wound down and the waiter brought the check, Derek pulled out his wallet. "We can split it," Kelly said, reaching for her purse. "I got it," Derek said firmly. "Derek." "Kelly, I invited you. I'm paying. You can get the next one." "The next one?" "Well, we're going to be seeing a lot of each other, right? Might as well make it pleasant." Kelly studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, but next time is on me." They walked out of the restaurant together, the evening air cool and refreshing after the warmth inside. Derek walked Kelly to her car, his hands in his pockets. "So," he said as they reached her car, "that wasn't so bad, was it?" Kelly smiled, a real, genuine smile that made her whole face light up. "No, it wasn't. Do you think we can make this work? The co-parenting thing." Kelly looked at him, really looked at him. He wasn't the creep from the parking lot or the angry man from Courtney's office or even the stranger whose child she was carrying. He was just a person, flawed and hurt and trying, just like her. "I think we can try," she said softly. Derek smiled, and Kelly realized he had a nice smile, warm and genuine. "That's all I'm asking." As Kelly drove home that night, she found herself thinking about Derek Walker in a way she hadn't expected. Maybe this situation wasn't the disaster she'd thought it was. Maybe, just maybe, it might actually turn out okay. And across town, Derek sat in his apartment, thinking about Kelly James and the unexpected turn his life had taken. He'd gone into that dinner expecting conflict, maybe even another argument. What he'd found instead was a person. A real person with depth and humor, and intelligence and vulnerability, someone he might actually be able to work with. Someone he might actually want to work with. His phone buzzed with a text from Kelly. "Thanks for dinner. See you at the appointment next week." He typed back, "Wouldn't miss it. Sleep well, Kelly." Her response came quickly. "You too, Derek." He set his phone down, a small smile playing on his lips. Maybe this would work out after all. But little did he and Kelly know that they were about to face the most dangerous situation of their life. Hey guys, thanks for sticking with this story up until this part. I have to stop here, guys. I don't want to get in too long. But if you want to know what happens next between Derek and Kelly and how they were faced with one of the most dangerous situations of their life, just type in the comments section, "Part 2 needed," and I will drop the remaining part. Thank you, and please do have an amazing weekend.